Hey, what's going on everyone? Alex here. If you take a look back when this generation started in 2017, no one could have predicted that this would usher in a modern JRPG renaissance. From action games to turn-based combat, there's something for everyone. Thanks to your help, I compiled 10 JRPGs that are our absolute favorites. That said, there are even more JRPGs that deserve to be on this list, that if I actually added all of them, this video would have been at least an hour long. So if your favorite JRPG isn't here, please share them in the comments below. But before anything else, I just want to quickly talk about our sponsors who wanted me to let you know about Affogato. I actually previewed Affogato at the beginning of the year, and in case you haven't heard of it, it's a reverse tower defense game where you go through labyrinths of the mind and level up your units so that you can venture further and further through each area. There's also a light deck building element to the game, which lets you power up your units that help them become resilient or deal even more damage, adding an unexpected element to an otherwise interesting concept. There's also a coffee shop element that has you making drinks for customers in between dungeon runs, which is how you met all of these wonderful people and gain access to their mind labyrinths too. In addition, the creators of Affogato are giving away exclusive Steam keys to the full game, which is something that you don't want to miss. If you're as excited about this game as I am, simply head over to the Affogato Twitter page to join in the excitement and win a chance to play the game for free. You'll find a link to their Twitter page in the video description below, and Affogato is out right now. With all that out of the way, let's find out what games made it on this list. Persona 5. As the years passed further and further away from Royal's original release, I started feeling a little bit nostalgic for the original vanilla Persona 5. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to be delusional and say that Persona 5 was better than Royal, especially with the latter's well-implemented quality of life features. But there's something to be said about the pure, raw nature of the original game that I could certainly appreciate. The silliness of not being able to reload your gun after every battle, the baton pass being somehow locked behind confidant levels, and Morgana telling you to go to bed all the time were just some of the original game's quirks that gave the game its own unique charm. But when Royal came out, oh boy, it really expanded upon everything the original had. The side effect, of course, is that it made the whole experience a bit easier. But what can't be denied is how much it added to the original Persona 5 experience that simply couldn't just be patched into the original. I love Persona 5 and Royal, and that's huge because there's nothing else out there that really matches the style and flavor that is uniquely this pair of games. Chained Echoes. Progression system innovations are few and far in between, often sticking to the tried and true experience point/leveling systems that have become a staple of RPGs, not just JRPGs. So when I found out about Chained Echoes and how it did away with these systems, I had to pay attention. Chained Echoes is a love letter to every popular 16-bit JRPG of the SNES era, and it proudly kicks things off by using a callback to Chrono Trigger, undoubtedly one of the generation's shining stars. But Matthias doesn't stop there, as he injects a healthy helping of Xenogears and Mecha in it, bringing in some 32-bit sensibilities that play on our nostalgia, while delivering a completely fresh experience that the genre has long needed. I should also point out that this is a one-man job, and its quality rivals that of many of our favorite classics. This is a game that I still play from time to time on my Switch, and I surmise that it'll stay installed on there for a very long time. Octopath Traveler 2. It might seem like it's too early to include Octopath Traveler 2 on this list, but as a longtime fan of turn-based JRPGs and how I got every single copy of the game on every platform that it's on, I just had to. I've already talked about this game so much in so many other lists, but what isn't talked about enough is how much the path action systems add so much more to the lore of the game. And yes, I'm not just talking about looting everyone in town either. Every single character in Octopath Traveler 2 has their own unique stories to tell, which often hints as to how to solve certain situations. There was one time that I recall seeing a young girl hanging out with her mother, only to realize after reading her mind that her real mother had died years prior and that she was currently in an unfortunate situation. It was only then that I realized that I needed to free her from her captors, to which she rewarded me for saving her. This story, and many others like it, are scattered throughout Octopath Traveler 2, and can be easily missed if your main focus is to just plow through the main story and beat it. So if you're playing the game, hit the brakes for a brief moment, take in your surroundings, and discover a layer of Octopath Traveler 2 that you've probably never seen before. Tales of Arise. When I was making this list, I went through every Tales game released over the past few years, but every single time, Tales of Arise won over them hand over fist. Billed as an anniversary title, Tales of Arise incorporated elements of previous games in creative ways. But what if I told you that the seemingly out-of-place final moments in the game were in fact an extension of this idea? Without going into spoiler territory, the final hours of the game were an homage to the former Tales team who founded Tri-Ace, who went off into a different direction and into outer space with their own series, Star Ocean. But perhaps my favorite part of Tales of Arise is its Marvel vs. Capcom-esque combat system, which has you calling in companions for assists, and even going so far as to tag and control said companion when their assists finish. This elevated what seemed like a simplified combat system to some into a system that added a layer of gameplay that is a ton of fun and feels very rewarding. And food for thought here. Shion's assist is practically Iron Man's proton cannon super in the Marvel games. Ys VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana. Ever since I reviewed this game back when I first started making YouTube videos, I've been trying to find an excuse to talk about this game again. And with so many of you proclaiming that this is your favorite Ys game of all time, I just had to chime in on this again. Ys VIII satisfied that wanderlust that I had been missing by skipping out on so many open-world games out there, without making its world too overwhelming. The Isle of Saren is a massive place, filled with various biomes and lots of threatening monsters that make exploring this landmass treacherous. And with the addictive gameplay loop of finding shipwrecked survivors, unlocking abilities that let you explore the rest of the island even further, as well as these weird dream sequences that hint at something more, and you've got a ton of game in this one. And while I loved the traversal of Ys IX, I loved Ys VIII because it simply was a ton of fun to explore everything and everywhere, despite some of my issues with its crazy map system. And that's not even talking about the super quick team-based combo gameplay that makes it so much fun to dodge, block, and counter enemy attacks. Here's hoping that Ys X Nordics brings back the magic of Ys VIII's gameplay. Atelier Sophie 2. While Atelier Ryza gave the series more mainstream visibility, it is Atelier Sophie 2 that joins this list because of its sheer ability to blend the past with the present. And you don't even need to play the first game to enjoy it. Atelier Sophie 2 features all of the graphics improvements Ryza's enjoyed over the years, plus a return to a familiar crafting system that I've come to realize is my favorite crafting system in the series' history. It also helps that it features a heartwarming narrative that cements it as one of the best Atelier games ever made, which does make me wonder why Gus chose to keep the 2 after the name and not try to obscure the connection somehow. Either way, Atelier Sophie 2 is a must-play JRPG, even for fans who want to get into the Atelier series, as it's a great introduction and a tearful reunion for players old and new. Trails from Zero / Trails to Azure, the Crossbell Duology. I have been waiting for years to be able to say this, but the Crossbell Duology, comprising of Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, are absolutely some of the best games released in the West. After so many years in limbo, NIS's announcement that they would be bringing this duology to the West shocked many, and doubly so when they announced that they were basing their script off of Geofront's localization efforts. And while I had looked up and watched summaries of the Crossbell Duology in preparation for my playthrough of Cold Steel back in the day, there really is nothing that compares to playing the actual games themselves. And yes, I may be cheating here by lumping in 2 games as part of this list, but you simply can't stop playing after 0, especially knowing that Azure finishes the story. That is, of course, until you expand to the larger Trails series as a whole. Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure hold up incredibly well despite being released a decade ago in Japan, and it's simply one of the best JRPG experiences you'll have now that it's easily available on modern platforms. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Fire Emblem Three Houses caused a massive shift in the series, not only introducing new folks to its style of play, but also set a new standard for what players should expect in a Fire Emblem game. Fire Emblem Three Houses had you choosing between 3 different houses, embarking on a unique story for each, while pitting you against the other opposing factions. Three Houses is a tale of heartbreak and war, done in a way that only the Fire Emblem series can deliver. And with so many overwhelming options to choose from, and so many menus to wade through, and you've got a tactical RPG that you can literally spend hundreds of hours in. But what separates Three Houses from all the others is its sheer focus on developing its characters, and done well, I might add. Think about it this way. Three Houses has a whopping 33 recruitable characters in the game, and all of them have interesting backstories and allegiances that you'll want to befriend and chat with everyone just so you can have a fuller picture as to who each of them are as an individual, which might actually require you a repeated playthrough or 2. It's because of these and many more reasons that there won't ever be a game like Fire Emblem Three Houses for many years to come, making it an instant classic in the hearts and minds of its fans. Dragon Quest XI: Echoes of an Elusive Age. When it comes to old school JRPGs, you can't get any more old school than Dragon Quest. And with Dragon Quest XI's release, the series has yet another masterpiece that can sit beside some of the classics. Dragon Quest to me bears the distinction of one of the few JRPGs that can toe the line between comedy and seriousness with the greatest of ease, featuring punny names for its rogues gallery of monsters, while tackling subjects such as death and despair in the most interesting and strangely wholesome ways. And as with the best Dragon Quests, 11 features a truly memorable cast that quickly became my new favorites as I played on. And just when you thought it was all over when the credits rolled, the game just kept going and going and going and going. Dragon Quest XI is a JRPG that doesn't know when to stop giving. And while the series presentation is decidedly becoming more modern as the years progress, the old school turn-based style gameplay is still there, like a comfy blanket that you used to snuggle with when you were young. Yakuza Like a Dragon. And what better way to end this list than the man who loves Dragon Quest himself, Ichiban Kasuga. Yakuza Like a Dragon is the series' first foray into turn-based combat, owing much to Ichiban's obsession with the Dragon Quest series. This meant that every single battle in a Jinsho would transform his opponents into Dragon Quest enemy archetypes, which are all happening in Ichiban's imagination. But don't be fooled, because at the heart of Yakuza Like a Dragon comes a story filled with tons of revelations, betrayals, and poignant moments elevated by the acting chops of Kaiji Tang. That one moment when Ichiban bares his heart and lets everything out is a moment that haunts me to this day, and one of my favorite moments in games ever, regardless of how heart-wrenching that moment was. Let's not forget, however, that Yakuza Like a Dragon had you changing jobs at an employment center. While it might be inconvenient to some who would prefer being able to change these on the fly, the kitschiness of having to change your career at an employment center tickled my nerdy JRPG self, and it's one simple feature that I always tell people about, amongst its many other noteworthy features, that is. And that, my friends, are 10, really 11, best JRPGs of the modern era. However, as I said in the beginning, these are just some of the many incredible JRPGs that have been released this generation. So share what other games you think should belong on this list in the comments below, and like any comment that you find that recommended a game that you liked. I also posted some tips on Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and I know it's being memed a lot, but you gotta check it out. The tips I gave are for newcomers and JRPG fans, and I have no doubt that you'll find them helpful. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.